In 2012, a YouTube video popped up, and it was of a man by the name of Joshua Bell standing at a metro station in Washington, D.C., playing the violin. And he was playing on a Stradivarius. He played about 4 pieces from Johann Sebastian Bach. He is one of the world's best violinists, playing on one of the best violins, wearing a little hat, and he's standing at the metro. And nobody stopped to listen. People pay $400 US, $1,000 US to go in here and play at Carnegie Hall. But at the metro station, nobody stopped. A child stopped. A child recognized, but nobody else. So this became a conversation on the YouTubes about how we're all rushing really fast and nobody can recognize art if they don't see it, blah, blah, blah. Actually, no. Art is defined by context. It's the context that allows us the freedom to see it. Sometimes we can see great art and it hits us across the face. It's like, wow, that's great. But very often, it requires a frame. In the same way, many of you have probably been to a show of Cirque du Soleil, or you can imagine it, the nostalgic element of going to the circus tent, perhaps a bit outside the city. And when you arrive, you already have this building anticipation. You've paid way too much money for the ticket. You've gone there, you've paid your 80 to 120 euros. The tent comes into view, and there's a ritual of entrance. And you sit down in this anticipation, building. And maybe about 5-10 minutes before it starts, you have some annoying clowns come out who try to give you a bit of animation. But it's all about developing a framework, a context, priming the mind. So on that note, I have a little video about the House of Dancing Water, about its creation process, to give you context. And from there, I have taken out 3 principles from my work and from that period of creation and my experience of it, how I think are relevant to customer experience in general. So go ahead and let's watch a little video. Okay, so that's the show, and it's still happening now in Macau. If you want to see it, you can call me and I'll get you tickets. I'm lying. All right, so here we see, in 2010, we all came together, about 500 people, from technicians to underwater scuba acrobatic handlers, to roadies, accountants, dancers, acrobats, a huge mix. And we all came together collectively to create a show. And what we were doing at the time is we asked ourselves the question, what do we want to create? What kind of show do we want to create? In that period, we were doing tests and ideas and trying stuff. And we were defining our sandbox of what would be the reality that we would play in. This elicits me to the first principle. So there we are. That's not me, obviously. But this is us in Belgium training. I'll give you a quick idea. This girl here is an American Olympic gymnast. This one here, he's a Slovak, was also a gymnast, French dancer, French, Polish, all mix of people. And we were there and we said, well, what can we possibly create? Next slide. So, in the theater, we say that one of the principles that we say there's no acting, only reacting. And we talk about this idea of the magic if. So, for example, there's only 2 reasons why you move on stage: to go towards something or to move away from something. If you don't know why you're moving, don't move. So, what happens with young actors is we come on stage and we do this a lot. It's called happy feet, because they haven't made a decision and defined the world that they're working in. If it's very clear the platform that you have and where you're working, then you make choices of why you move and why you don't move. Why? Because the audience is always watching every movement, and that's giving them information. So if you're not clear of what you want to say, do you think it'll be clear for the audience? My teacher in Paris said, Jesko, it doesn't matter what you feel. It matters what the audience feels. And so I would go up and I would try stuff, and if we were boring, he'd say, very boring, sit down immediately. You were paying him a lot of money, and he would look into 3 seconds and say, boring, sit down. No, no pleasure, sit down. And it would go on for weeks and months like this. And that's, Jesus, this guy, I'm paying him, he's not helping me. And what he's doing, he's helping me define my world, who I am, where do we love you? And so he would say, Jesko, the point is that the audience needs to dream around you. So when we laugh, we begin to laugh around you, then we know that we're beginning to dream around you. In the end, you want the audience to come and say, thank you very much. Tonight, I drank champagne with my imagination. And what this means is that if I, as an actor, try too much to define the experience for the audience, the audience will say, get lost, because their imagination and what they need in their lives is much richer than what I could possibly provide. So my job as an actor is to only provide the touch points. And the audience fills in the blanks in between. Because what you need for your imagination, and when you see two lovers together, that will give you and say, yes, I remember the first time I fell in love. And I remember when the first time I kissed my girlfriend, I was 14 years old, and we were walking home from dance class, and the pink in the sky was just right, and my skin was alive, and I kissed her, and I wanted to kiss her the whole time. It was aching here, it was aching. And that's what I remember. But for someone else, they say, no, it was when I was 17 years old, and this moment occurred. And that experience is much richer in each person. And so this is the idea, is that don't act. Don't try to lead the person's imagination. Provide touch points and let them fill in the blanks, because their experience is much richer than what you can possibly give them. All you are is providing signposts. And if you do it well, you give enough space to allow them to dream. Next slide. Intentional inhibition. So, in the performing arts, we have a concept based around Alexander technique. That, for example, when your phone rings, mostly for guys, the phone buzzes, we immediately go in our pocket and we look. Or for women, it's maybe on the table or in the purse, whatever. But the fact is that we're in the middle of engaging in a conversation, and suddenly we'll look at the phone. And it's become a dangerous reflex that we're trying to unlearn. Or, for example, somebody calls your name, you immediately turn and you see who's calling you. This is a reflex that we have. Musicians and singers, they maybe play aggressively, and they'll go into these patterns that becomes habit. When those moments happen and we start to get difficulty with that, we have to intentionally inhibit our reaction. So that when the phone rings, say, nope, I'm not going to answer. And then you answer. We're breaking that cycle of those habits. Creatively, the same thing happens. When we are asked to solicit something from the director will come and push on you and say, give me something. Very often you'll react in the same way that, say, a boss asks you for a deliverable. You say, what does the boss want? You just do it. You blindly do it. I invite to think about when you are solicited for information, you stop and say, no. And you wait silently. And the right idea will bubble up. Or a more authentic idea will bubble up. And there you are in this space of reacting authentically to you and what you need, and not necessarily what you think your boss needs, or the director, or the client. And so I think if you allow that space between stimulus and reaction, so stimulus, you receive stimulus, somebody cuts you off along on the road, your first action is, and when that happens, you say, no, I don't need to react like that. I can choose to react differently. And you may still choose to put on the horn and say, ugh, but you also have another choice. So between stimulus and reaction, that's freedom. That's how we define our freedom. And that's emotional intelligence. Allowing the space to not immediately react to stimulus. And when we are creating in the performing arts, when I'm creating, I always try to do that. When somebody comes at me with something, don't move, wait. Listen, inside. Then I can come with something more authentic. Yeah? Okay, next slide. For whom do we create? So this is a question of empathy. When we go to the stage or to perform, I say, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. Well, why do you want to do it? Well, because I have this idea that, yeah, fine, why? What are you trying to give to the audience? What is the experience you try to give to the audience? So when I work, and generally when we work in the circus and in theater, we ask ourselves the fundamental question, for whom do we create? And we have simultaneously three people in mind: the wonder of the child, the contemporary adult, and the connoisseur of our art form. Next slide. So, the child, the wonder of a child. We all say it's very pretty and it's very nice, but I can tell you is that when somebody is hanging 20 meters in the air, you have this, oh my God, are they going to fall? Are they going to die? What's going to happen? That's a very visceral reaction. When you see something, you don't understand exactly how it works and you're interested to know how it works, well, there's a general wonder there, and that's sort of that spirit of the child. How do they do that? Why do they do that? The contemporary adult, they ask themselves, so how does this relate to my life? What can I get from it? Because we're trying to find solutions. And the connoisseur, somebody who knows your métier, says, cliché, cheating, not authentic. Yeah? And we are trying to respond to that as well. So, wrapping up. When we think about, in the performing arts, customer experience, we're asking ourselves always that question. Why are we doing it? For whom are we creating? And how am I responding to it? And I think that in our professional lives, these ideas, when we circulate around them, I'm sure there are points where that can connect. At least in my world, that's how I work. Thank you very much.